Most men believe that physical compatibility is strictly a matter of fixed dimensions and static measurements. We are taught from a young age to view our bodies, and specifically our vascular function, as rigid tools that either measure up to a specific standard or fail completely. But clinical research, alongside evolutionary biology, suggests something very different is happening during human intimacy. The reality of anatomical compatibility has almost nothing to do with static size, and everything to do with a dynamic, highly adaptable biological response that most men completely misunderstand. If you are a man over 35, you have likely experienced the quiet internal pressure regarding physical expectations. Perhaps you've noticed subtle changes in your own circulation, a slightly slower physical response time, or a general shift in your daily energy reserves. When these natural physiological shifts occur, it is incredibly common to start questioning your physical adequacy or worrying about compatibility with a partner. You might feel a sense of mental fatigue, worrying that your body is not responding with the same predictable rigidity it did in your 20s. You might even find that your reduced morning strength causes a quiet anxiety about your long-term vitality. I want to validate that experience completely, but I also want to firmly assure you that this is not a personal failure, nor is it a loss of your masculinity. It is a biological adaptation. Frame it as a transition into a more sophisticated phase of your physiology, and understanding the science of how two bodies actually interact mechanically and biologically changes everything. I am Dr. Iris Amelia, an andrology specialist. My clinical work focuses on how aging affects male physiology, specifically the intersection of vascular health, hormonal balance, and the preservation of long-term physical confidence. We look at the actual science of the human body, removing the societal noise and the exaggerated claims. What most men are never told is that the physical structures involved in intimacy are not static environments. Doctors often focus on the symptoms of male circulation changes, prescribing quick fixes or focusing entirely on the man's physical metrics. But the underlying mechanism of physical compatibility is rooted in something called physiological accommodation. During the mutual arousal response, the partner's anatomical structures undergo a profound physical transformation. Tissues engorge with localized blood flow, internal canals naturally lengthen, and the surrounding musculature actually adapts its shape and volume to match the environment. It is a dynamic, living environment, not a fixed container. This becomes extremely important in a moment when we discuss how your own nervous system reacts to this adaptability. Stay with me, because the next part explains why understanding your partner's biological response can actually directly improve your own vascular function and daily energy levels. To understand this biological interaction, we must translate the clinical science into everyday logic. Think of the body's physiological response not like fitting a specific key into a specific rigid lock, but rather like a highly advanced responsive climate control system interacting with a room. When the system activates, the room itself changes, the vents open, the pressure alters, and the environment expands to perfectly accommodate the energy being introduced. The human body functions in exactly this way. The physical structures of your partner naturally expand in depth and circumference to mirror the physical presence you introduce. This remarkable elasticity is what allows the human body to comfortably accommodate varying degrees of physical size. It is a biological lock and key system where the lock actively changes shape to fit the key perfectly and then returns to its resting state afterward. Understanding this adaptability requires a brief look at human evolution. It is fascinating to look at why the male physical structure is shaped the way it is. Evolutionary biologists suggest that the unique structural design of the male anatomy, specifically the widened distal ridge, or what is clinically called the coronal sulcus, evolved for a highly specific biological purpose. Early in human history, before modern social structures, biological competition was fierce. The shape of the male anatomy evolved to optimize reproductive success. During physical movement, this structural ridge acts dynamically. It was biologically designed to clear the reproductive pathway of any competing biological material that may have been left by a previous encounter, thereby increasing the chances that the current male's genetic material would be successful. Your physical architecture is a marvel of evolutionary design, built for biological optimization and endurance. Interestingly, this concept of physical matching and adaptability is not new. Thousands of years ago, ancient historical matchmakers, specifically particularly within early Taoist traditions, attempted to predict physiological compatibility using observable external traits. They believed they could assess a man and a woman from across a room and understand their physical and biological alignment. They would look at a man's hands or jawline and a woman's facial features, the thickness of her lips, the shape of her eyelids or her cheekbones, to predict tissue elasticity, depth, and overall physical drive. For example, specific facial structures were historically believed to correlate with a highly elastic internal physiology, while other features suggested a more shallow physical structure. While modern medical science views these specific facial correlations as historical mythology rather than anatomical fact, it highlights a profound, ancient understanding that the body's various systems are deeply interconnected. They understood that you cannot separate the physical structure from the biological energy and the vascular response. For a man today, understanding this biological adaptation completely shifts the paradigm of physical confidence. When you realize that a partner's physiology is scientifically designed to dynamically adapt to your specific vascular presence, whether your structural size is perceived by you as large, average, or smaller, the intense pressure to perform dissipates. You are not required to fill a static void. You are engaging with a responsive biological system. When this mental pressure is removed, it allows your autonomic nervous system to shift out of the sympathetic fight or flight state and into the parasympathetic rest and digest state. As we know in the field of andrology, a relaxed nervous system is the absolute biological foundation of strong circulation, enduring stability, and unwavering physical strength. You cannot force localized vascular function if your brain is signaling systemic stress. To support your own vascular readiness and optimize how your nervous system engages with your body, every video I make introduces a practical, evidence-based habit. Today, I recommend a small daily physiological upgrade called the Peripheral Vascular Flush. It takes under 5 minutes, it is completely safe and natural, and it gradually improves your systemic health. Every evening, about an hour before sleep, sit comfortably and spend 3 to 4 minutes doing a slow, controlled, deep tissue massage on your calf muscles and the soles of your feet using your thumbs. Apply firm, steady pressure. This is not a miracle solution, but it is a highly effective physiological tool. This physical pressure manually stimulates the endothelial cells in your lower extremities to release nitric oxide, a critical molecule for systemic circulation. More importantly, it signals your nervous system to move out of the high-stress, restricted state and into a relaxed, vasodilated state, preparing your body for optimal overnight recovery. When you adopt this simple vascular habit, the improvements are highly predictable. In week 1, you will likely notice subtle internal changes, perhaps finding that your legs feel less restless and your breathing becomes slightly deeper before sleep. By week 2, as your autonomic nervous system begins to trust this routine, you should experience more stable daily energy, waking up feeling less physically tense. By week 3, as your systemic circulation improves and nitric oxide levels stabilize, many men report improved physical confidence and a noticeable return of reliable morning vitality. These changes are entirely realistic because you are simply supporting the body's natural restorative pathways. It is often assumed that an evolutionary mismatch in physical size is the primary cause of physical dissatisfaction between partners, but research shows the relationship is much more complex. The true driver of physical connection is not static dimensions or rigid measurements. It is the mutual physiological engorgement driven by a relaxed, connected nervous system. A large physical presence combined with stress and a lack of mutual tissue engorgement creates physical discomfort. Conversely, any physical size combined with optimal tissue elasticity, mutual physiological adaptation, and a calm nervous system creates profound connection and satisfaction. The focus must always be on vascular responsiveness and nervous system regulation, not on the tape measure. We must reframe how we view the passage of time. The male body isn't failing as it crosses 40, 50, or 60. It is simply adapting to different The hyper-aroused, highly reactive biological responses of your 20s were necessary for that stage of life. But those responses are meant to naturally evolve into the stable, deeply connective, and highly controlled physiology of your later years. This stage of your life is a time for refinement. It is a time for understanding the sophisticated mechanics of mutual biology, for balancing your internal systems, and for restoring a quiet, grounded sense of masculinity that does not rely on frantic energy but on enduring stability. I am curious about your own journey with these physiological shifts. Have you noticed changes in your daily energy or how you view your physical expectations after turning 40? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective is incredibly valuable and helps build a community of men dedicated to logical, quiet improvement. Understanding how your partner's body adapts is only half the equation for long-term vitality. If you want to understand the one highly common daily habit that quietly weakens your own circulation and limits your physical strength after 40, and exactly how to reverse it using natural biological principles, watch the video appearing on your screen now.